Welcome to the Tech Flash. If you're looking to increase your ed tech knowledge that's quick and easy to listen to, you have come to the right place. Let's join our host Josh and see what today's episode is all about.
Hello and welcome to the Tech Flash. Listen, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're back. I hope you enjoyed those episodes with Michael Wesley, and I just it's just very impactful and just really brings you things that you can use in your classroom today and tomorrow and forever. So listen, let's get right into it. So remember, teachers, we don't need more ideas. We need things that actually work. So remember, this is the Tech Flash. In the next 15, 20 minutes, we're going to build something that you can use hopefully tomorrow. So let's get into it. So today we're going to talk about really what we see in the classroom as far as maybe classroom instruction goes, maybe what we see great teachers doing, and even to the point of what are things that we need to start doing, or maybe, lack of a better word, jumping on that train. So today we've got a big guest today, and one of my favorite guests on the show besides Scott Webb. We've got Denny Collins in the house. How's it going, Denny?
It's going great. You say that to every guest you have. I want that to be noted for the record, right?
That
Every
is true.
guest is your favorite guest. But I do get to say this is, I'm no longer a rookie. So I've been on the show multiple times and I love coming on here. We always have great conversations. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited you're here. And we talked a little bit before the show, got a little bit of different format today. I think it's really exciting, just the evolution of the show and continue it. Even in your role too, we push and we change to make ourselves better. So let's just get diving in here. So Denny, I know that in your role now, and you as a admin for several years, history teacher, you've seen lots of classrooms, you've seen lots of great teaching going on. But when we think about that teaching, when you walk in classrooms, what do you see teachers doing that works really well? Where do you see the struggle at? And in this new age, how does AI really play in both of those views that you've seen?
Well, you threw a massive curveball in at the end with the use of AI, because I think it's not, we all recognize that we are in this period of time that is transitional, right? And maybe we always say that it's a transition time. We're going from this to this, and maybe every decade has experienced some element of transition. But I think it's truly a significant shift for us, right? In a K-12 education and even in college education as well. Education and learning today is vastly different than it has been in any other time in history. And I believe that. Quick story just came to my mind. I was thinking about it. Our in-wall oven, we've got a stove in our house, right? Going to bake something, went out, right? So it took 30 minutes for our oven to preheat to like 350. That's not right.
No.
Okay. So 30 years ago, you know what I do? I call my dad. My dad's an engineer, and okay, Dad, what do you do? And of course, Dad calls upon his historical knowledge of, okay, I've seen this, I've experienced it, whatever. That's what I would have done. Not anymore. I got on AI, said, hey, walk me through this. What's a possible situation? And Josh, it was crazy. It asked for the model. I took a picture of it, embedded it in that. It said, okay, looks like you have Frigidaire gallery. Here's probably what you're looking at. Okay, here's some issues. And of course, it narrows it down to the baking element. Right? There's a baking element in the bottom of an in-wall. So see, I've learned so much about it already. I had no idea. I just thought, okay, it heats up. Well, there's a baking element underneath that's hidden. The baking element, it said, is likely bad. And that happens with this brand and this model. And so here's what you need to do. And it walks me through. It takes me where to order it, everything. I order it. It came in yesterday. Last night I put it in. Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't call my dad. I think my dad was a little disappointed. So love you, Dad. I will call you and we can re-put it back in. But yeah, I took it out, took out my in-wall oven, took out the baking element, installed the baking element, walked through it, all with my phone right there handy. Now you're thinking, well, that's a great little story. What's that have to do with anything? That's learning. Okay. And that to me is an exemplar of how learning takes place today. The issue is, I think some of our schools and some of our teachers, me included, are a lot like my dad, right? No, we can't do that. I still need you to call me. I still need to come over and help you. All this good stuff. Now, my dad, he's super pumped about it. He loves it. His son's learning new things. But we are a little bit resistant to that change and that transition, that the role of teacher, and we talked about this last time, the role of the teacher is evolving, and it has to evolve in order to equip our students for this new age of learning. So your question was, what are we doing that you like? Number one, and I think this will never go away. I love when I walk into classrooms and I see teachers engaging with students, period.
Yeah.
Full stop. I don't care if it's digital. I don't care if it's paper and pencil. I don't care what it looks like in the classroom. When you have an engaging classroom and an engaging culture where adults are loving kids and helping them in their love of learning, that's going to be a powerful classroom. Okay, period. That to me is foundational. What can change in that are maybe the tools that we use, right? So how do we utilize the new tools of the 21st century, including AI, to better support our students and to help them walk through this journey? So relationships are key. What do we do with AI, and how do we use it? I've challenged you. We were talking about this before. I think you're critical. I think your role in the district is mission critical for who we are, because you have such a passion for AI. You were telling me about the gentleman on the show before. Tell me his name.
Michael Wesley.
Michael Wesley, and he's a prominent guy. And I'm like, I need to talk to that guy. Because you invested hours on the phone with him and talking to him, and you've gone to these conferences, and you are really learning about how to use AI. So you're kind of the ground zero for our district in terms of AI. The challenge for you is, how do you take what you know and what you've learned and disseminate that out to our staff, right? Because there is a gap, and it still exists, between the teachers and the educators that have AI and that know AI, and the students that have AI and know AI and are using it, right? And there is this conflict. There just is. You can't use this. You can't use that. That's not good. We want to write a paper. We want to do this. I want you to show me how you learn. Learning is different. And we as adults have to step into that space and say, hey, it's a different world. So I'm excited. I gave you a big preview. I'm excited to talk about it, Josh.
Yeah. And, really, when you say all those things, it really feels like as teachers, we're doing the same thing as our students. And the word is compliance, right? You think about from the time we're in college, or, this new generation is going to be different.
Yes.
But we've learned how to do certain things in lessons. We're being compliant as teachers, and we're not stepping out of that boundary. And then now we're expecting our students to, we talked about writing. We talked about all these things that it's just compliance. Like writing is important. I get that. The foundation of it is important, but it's just compliance. When I say, here's 2 stories, tell me your thoughts, feel like those old school mindset of analyzing a paper versus let's dive deeper into how can we apply it to our real life? How can we apply it to this situation? Can we do this instead of just writing a paper? Can we do a podcast? Can we do a presentation? Can I create I don't know why diorama is in my brain, but like a poster board or something, like just changing the mindset of what we're doing. Because once we change that from instruction and not compliance, I feel like then that shift is going to be a big changer for a lot of things.
You said 2 words before we started this that I really want to key in on. And if it's all we talk about in our brief time, I would be happy with that. You said compliance, okay, as one, and that's a great word. And the second word you said was differentiation. And I think those 2 could be cornerstones for our larger conversation. You hit it on the head. Compliance is exactly the model that we're at. And it's probably because, and I'm not letting our adults off the hook, but that's the world we grew up in to a degree, right? We grew up in this compliance-based industry of public education or education in general. Hey, do this, do X, do Y, do Z, these things will happen, all that good stuff. And so now for adults to take the lead in that change is difficult. Any kind of change is difficult. So I do say this, and I think you would acknowledge that to our K-3 and our students and teachers who are teaching writing. Make no mistake, there's no suggestion that you should go full AI and replace the idea and the concepts of writing. It's critical. I think that's well researched, what the brain goes through when it learns to write, the physical element of picking up a pen or a pencil and putting it to paper and forming letters. And I don't think that's what we're suggesting here at all, because there is so much developmental in that. For our students, that's not the suggestion. I think what we're talking about is the model of, okay, we have students that have gone through writing, that they've gone through the K3 world. They understand paper to pencil, whatever. They're in this a little bit older age of learning. Now, how can we incorporate that? How can we break the chains of compliance to help them learn, right? And so we'll go back to that story with my dad and the baking element, right? The same thing with writing a paper had I have two daughters in college. One of them had a friend that called us and said, "Hey, I need help." Okay, she's writing a paper on Palestine and the West Bank. Are you familiar with Palestine and the West Bank?
No.
Yeah, no. I mean, I know what I read in the paper, but it's super complicated, right? It is a complex and deep issue, and here's this student who is she was a shout out to our PE major. She's a PE major, right? I mean, she's not going to be a history major. She's not going to be a writer or an author or anything like that. And so she's like, "Hey, how do I do this? I'd love to learn about this, but this is complicated." And so we walked through on the phone in like 15 minutes the strategies of the baking element. I taught her how to change the baking element, so to speak. Here's how you can learn in this. And I think as adults, we get frustrated that it can be so quick, right? We can learn in this new model, and that maybe it shortchanges it or it cheapens it. It doesn't. I think AI helps us to really solidify, hey, here's what it is. One of the things I love is I'll get a complex text. I got an email the other day that was super complicated, right? And I was like, I have no idea, because I'm not a very smart person. I have no idea what this is. Copied the text, put it into AI. Hey, put this in plain language for me. It was awesome. And I think our students can learn that, but we as adults have to be okay stepping into that space and allowing our kids to explore that, right? And to get out of the compliance model. It's not about writing a paper. It's not about taking an assessment. It's not about, hey, let's read pages 10 through 20 tonight and let's come take a quiz. It's a whole new world. And we as the adults have to be the leaders in that, to say, learning is different today. 2026 is a different world of learning. We've got to be the leaders in that. And I'm going to challenge you. You've got to help us in the district be able to do that.
And when you talk about these challenges and using AI to look up Palestine and all these things, your oven, I think about this. I had the same kind of experience with my hot water heater, right? My first gut was, I just need to call somebody. I can't replace this. Yeah. And my wife was like, no, you can do it. So I go down there and I'm looking, I'm Googling
Your wife says that. My wife says, don't do it.
Like,
you call somebody.
She's like, it can't be hard. And I'm like, whatever. Awesome. I'm like, it's going to be hard. So I go down there and I'm like Googling it, looking at YouTube videos. And I had this thought, I was like, why don't I just use the tools that I have? And so I go to my AI. Yeah. I take a picture. I even pulled it up. I used ChatGPT, pulled up the video, and we're like having a video conference call, right? I fixed my hot water heater, the element in it. And I was like, that was so easy. And I feel like sometimes as teachers, we're still stuck in, again, this compliance of this is the way I've always done it.
That's right.
Even though this new idea is there, it's a little scary.
That's right.
And I get in the elementary age, maybe some middle school, we still need to build that foundation. Sure. We still need to do that. But at some point, our job is always as educators is to allow these students to graduate high school, go to post-secondary school, get a real job if they're going to, go to a trade school and be successful. And if they can do something and be successful, we've had a small part in their success. Yeah. And I feel like if we don't acknowledge what's going on now and we don't shift how we're doing things, we're going to have that struggle. We're going to not have that big of impact with students.
Sure. I mean, we have this tool that's available to everyone. And so, the hard reality is if we don't help our students understand the tool and how to use the tool to better themselves, we aren't doing, I think, what we're called to do. We are educators. That doesn't mean we have to have a textbook, right? And a quiz and a midterm assessment and a final exam. We don't have to have that cookie cutter factory assembly line model anymore. We don't. And really, we should have gotten away from it years ago. And maybe AI is the catalyst to push us away from that. Maybe that happens. But yeah, we've got to lead out as teachers in that space with a group of kids who are desperate for this. I believe that. I believe for the first time you can see kids that there's a glow in their eye that, hey, I'd love to learn how to use this. It's fascinating to them. It's interesting to them. And hey, I love me some Shakespeare, some Macbeth, but man, Macbeth's still going to be there. Teach me how to use this, how to embed this tool in what I'm doing.
Yeah. All right. So listen, Denny, I think I'm going to ask you a question in a second, but I feel like there's a miss somewhere, right? And I feel like some of it AI is so powerful. Maybe it's one of those things we just don't know what to do with it yet. Like we talk a lot about, is it as a tool? We just, create lesson plans. You can differentiate. We can do all these things. But I feel like we need to have this shift mindset of it can do more than what we know of it.
Sure.
Right. Like my conversations with Michael in their district, they have a policy now where chatbots can't give student feedback. A teacher has to give them that feedback first. Right. I get that. And so what he's done is he's taken a Google form, students paste in their paragraph, their essay, whatever. It's in a Google Sheet now. Now we're uploading that to AI. And now we can get, here's my feedback. I need to look at everybody's paper. What's the common theme that we're missing? What is everybody's hook statement looks like? You're asking these questions and you're narrowing it down based off that. Now the teacher's getting that feedback. The teacher's acknowledging it. And now you're giving quicker feedback to students versus, I have to read all the papers every weekend. Like we can still make it their words and maybe they still type it on the paper. Maybe we tell them no AI, but as a teacher, there's things that we can do that supports our students because I know the faster feedback that we have on things, the better that we're going to transition to something new. Like if I asked you a question and it takes you a week to get back to me, by that week, man, I've forgotten how I feel in that moment. I've forgotten all those things. And so I feel like we've got to figure out between our instruction to this new tool, how we can marry those together and really just be awesome. And I think a lot of us still kind of struggle with that.
The entire concept is a struggle because it is so new and it's come on so fast and it changes every day. I think the first thing that has to change is our attitude and approach to it, right? We can use this as adults. Our students can use this as a learning tool and that's okay. It's totally fine. The reality is your students are going to use this to help them comply with their assignments.
Yeah.
They just are. What I'm hoping happens, one of the big shifts that I would like to see is it changes the way the teacher and the student interact and engage. Okay. So I love, forever we wrote papers, we turned those in, the teacher read them. Some teachers would give you written feedback, others would not. It would take weeks, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I think this could push us to change to more of a personal model, right? So I've written the paper, I've done the assignment, I've done the podcast, whatever it is. But now what I need you as a student to teach me this subject, right? I need you to teach the class this. And I think it has the opportunity to create a space for more engagement in a world where, Josh, we don't engage. Like we text, everything's digital. I think there's an opportunity for AI to say, okay, it's the tool that's done all these things. However, you're the one that has to fix the water heater, right?
Yeah.
You've got to order the parts, you've got to change the parts. The machine can't do that for you yet. Anyway, you've got to do that. So I think there's a potential for us to say to Billy and Susie and Sally and Johnny, like, hey, what have you learned? And I want you to share that in a very personal space. I want you to share it with the class. I want you to develop these communication skills and strategies that showcase exactly what you've learned. And even embed, this is how I learned it, right? I used AI as a tool to teach me about X, Y, and Z. And I think kids will be more receptive to that style of learning as opposed to, okay, I need you to open your textbook, or now it's, get on your screen and read your digital textbook. That's just not happening. It's just not. So yeah, we've got to reinvent that and lean into that space to allow kids a different method for showing us just what they've learned and how they've learned it.
Yeah. And you use this word hope. So when we think about that, what is one thing a teacher can take from our conversation today? And they can implement that in a classroom today if they're listening to it on their way to work, or one thing they can use tomorrow when they walk into that classroom.
Yeah, I mean, I think the model is going to be our teachers, you and I included. We have to be the model of learning because AI is not something that we grew up understanding. We're in the same space as our students.
Yeah.
And that can be uncomfortable. But we have to be willing to say, we're learning this alongside you, right? And you have to do that. I don't think we can be resistant. You talked about that before the show. it's not going away, right? No one's going to come on tomorrow and say, you know what, AI is done, it's banned, whatever. AI is here and it will only get bigger. So we've got to lean into learning that, because that's who, we are kind of these champions of learning, right? And if that's what we say and that's what we promote, we have to step into that box too. We can't just say, "Oh, no. I'm an elementary writing person. I don't do that. I only do open court. No, that's it. I don't want to deal with middle
Yeah.
school and high school." Yeah, you know what? You're gonna have to step into that space because you are an educator. You are the model of learning. So as far as teachers, what can they do today? What I would encourage them to do is what their students are doing. Learn, right? Call Josh Morris, say, hey, come lead me in this professional development. Come teach me what you know so I can incorporate that to become a better facilitator of learning for my students. That's what I would do, because I'm still learning. Like, I think it's really, really neat. We've talked about the different, Copilot and Claude and Google LM and all the different things. And there's so many and so vast. We've got to be the models for learning. And it'd be okay telling your kids that, hey, I'm learning this and I'd love to incorporate this in our class. And for me, it's, I was an American history teacher, loved it. And I've got to begin to look at how can I use this to help my kids develop this love for learning about American history, because it can be done.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I think, going forward, just having teachers not just know the content, they know that, but it's experiencing what students are experiencing and getting into their shoes and really bridging not just the content inside their room, but what's happening outside of it.
Great word.
And continuing to learn and continuing to build, not just as a teacher, but as your students, and have that two-sided of it. I think that's awesome.
Well, how cool would it be for a kid to be in a classroom where their teacher's learning as well? Because I think that empowers them. Like, hey, as a student, you can feel inferior, but if you see your teacher learning as well, now all of a sudden we're in the same life raft together. I think it's a very cool thing.
Yeah,
great.
It's awesome. I think that's a great little fact. I think that's a great little thing for teachers to use. Something you use today, tomorrow, and continuing to build on that. To continue to learn with their students. So listen, that's it. That's one move for you to try tomorrow. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode with Denny. We've got another one coming up next. So enjoy that for episode 85. Listen, fumbling on my words here at the end. 85 episodes. And so we'll have Denny back for 86. So I hope you enjoyed that episode, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you for joining us today on the Tech Flush podcast. Stay tech savvy, keep those gadgets charged, and remember, teachers and technology go hand in hand, connecting students to a world of knowledge for an electrifying learning experience. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and spread the word about the Tech Flush to your friends. Catch all episodes on Apple Podcasts. See you next time on the Tech Flush.